welcome to Final Play Sports Wrap. I'm your host, Pete Lubar, and today we're doing the Big 12 Wrap-Up, Week 8. Conference teams are starting to separate themselves with 5 teams, either 5-0 or 3-1. BYU, undefeated, takes an early lead with a hard-fought win over Utah, while Cincinnati remains undefeated in conference as well. In one of the big games of the week, Texas Tech traveled to ASU. Sam Levitt had 319 yards and a touchdown to lead Sun Devils over the Raiders. Total yards for ASU was 394 to 276. Time of possession for ASU was 37.12 minutes versus 22.48 minutes. ASU scored a TD after a Texas Tech pick in the third period. Texas Tech came roaring back to take a 22-19 lead with 2 minutes left in the game. But ASU got a 1-yard run from running back Raylick Brown with 34 seconds left to seal the win. BYU beat Utah in the resumption of the Holy War. Devin Dampier for Utah had 244 yards passing, 1 TD, and 1 interception for Utah. However, 4 turnovers and 6 penalties doomed the Utes. The third period was also scoreless, but Utah took the lead with a 49-yard rushing TD by Daniel Bray to take a 14-10 early lead. You scored on their next possession, and they scored again after Dampier threw his interception. So Utah scored a late TD to make the game close, but BYU got a great win. They were dogs at home, and I actually predict that BYU would win that game. So Cincinnati is 6-1 and 4-0 overall. They continued their winning ways, beating Oklahoma State 49-17. Brendan Sorsby had 270 yards and 3 TDs for Cincinnati. Cincinnati scored early and often in route, and they got 21 points in the second period and 21 points in the fourth period. The only highlight really for Oklahoma State, Rodney Fields Jr. had 163 yards rushing and 1 TD for the Cowboys, so good game for the freshman, Rodney Fields. Houston improved to 6-1, 3-1 in conference with a hard-fought victory over Arizona. It was a great game. The game was back and forth before Houston grabbed a 21-14 lead at the half. They then scored a third-quarter TD to take a 28-14 lead. Arizona behind Nick Fafita came roaring back with 2 DTs to tie the score with 4 minutes and 52 seconds in the game. Houston got a last-second field goal to seal the victory. Connor Wegman had 164 yards and 3 Ds and 98 yards rushing and 1 TD for the Cougars. So Connor had a good game. It was an excellent game all in all, and Houston got that win at home. Another key game was Baylor at TCU. TCU won the game in a shootout, 42-36. Josh Hoover had 234 yards passing and 3 TDs. And Kavorian Barnes rushed for 106 yards and 2 TDs for the Horned Frogs. Baylor, quite frankly, was hurt by 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions by Sawyer Robinson, who otherwise had a good game, amassing 280 yards passing and 3 TDs for the Bears. However, forgot that his team was wearing gold helmets. So, good win for TCU, keeps them in the race, but they both fall to 2-2. They're just that kind of teams this year, unfortunately. Finally, in Big 12 action, UCF destroyed West Virginia 45-13 in a game that was only close for about the first 3 minutes. Knights scored 31 second-half points behind the arm of Taven Jackson, who passed for 277 yards and 2 TDs, and the legs of Jaden Nixon, who had 116 on 7 carries and 2 TDs, 16.6 yards per carry day for him. UCF ran for 255 yards on the day, which is a big number. And the rest of the team, CU, Iowa State, Kansas State, had bye weeks. So with 4 weeks to go, here are the standings. BYU and Cincinnati are both 4-0. They played Arizona, Texas Tech, Houston are all 3-1. And then we have a cluster of 6 teams that are 2-2. Might be on the edge of being in the race, but they all have to kind of win out. You got Iowa State, TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, Utah State, and Kansas, all at 2-2. And then you've got Arizona, UCF, and Colorado at 1 and 3. Probably all of them are out of the race at this point. And certainly 0 and 4 West Virginia and 0 and 4 Oklahoma State are out of the race as well. If we look ahead to this week's schedule, we got 14 teams playing. Kansas State, 3 and 4, is playing at Kansas, 4 and 3. They're both 2 and 2 in conference. Kansas is favored by 3.5 at home. Kansas State has played much better football since early in the season. It would not surprise me if they win. I'm going to take Kansas State and take the points. Number 11, Utah at 7-0 and 4-0 in conference is at Iowa State, 5 and 2, 2 and 2. Iowa State has had a bye week to help correct the sins that they've been dealing with for the year. They're 2.5-point favorites, so they should be rested and prepared. It would not surprise me if they upset BYU. However, I'm going to take BYU and take the points, which are 2.5. Oklahoma State 1 and 6, 0 and 4 at Texas Tech, 6 and 1, 3 and 1 in conference, and Texas Tech is a 38.5-point favorite. That is a humongous number for this late in the season in a conference game. But Oklahoma State has shown no ability to stop anyone on offense or on defense. And Texas Tech's got a really good offense, so I'm going to take Texas Tech and lay the 38.5. Baylor is 4 and 3, 2 and 2 conference. They travel to Cincinnati, 6 and 1, 4 and 0 in conference. And Cincinnati is a 5.5-point favorite. I think that's a good bet. I'm going to take Cincinnati and lay the 5.5. Although I expect this to be a relatively high-scoring game. TCU travels to West Virginia. TCU is 2 and 2 conference, 5 and 2 overall. West Virginia is 2 and 5, 0 and 4. West Virginia is a 15.5-point dog at home. I would take TCU and lay the points. CU travels to Utah, 3 and 4, 1 and 3. Utah is 5 and 2, 2 and 2. They are 15.5-point favorites. That's a no-brainer, I think. Utah will cover easily on that one. And Houston at 6 and 1 and 3-1 travels to Arizona State. And Arizona State's an 8.5-point favorite. Boy, that number might be a little big, but Arizona State is pretty good here. I think they'll win this game, but I might take Houston and the points. And bye week, Arizona and UCF have a bye week. So if we sort of look beyond next week's games, the Saturday's games, you kind of look out and you kind of look at the top 5 guys and who they've got left. BYU has TCU at Texas Tech, at Cincinnati and UCF. So the at Texas Tech game is likely a loss for BYU. The other 3 games are probably wins. And so, at worst case, they're only going to have 1 loss in conference. They're going to be 7 and 1 probably. Cincinnati is 4-0 as well. They have an at Utah, which is probably a loss. They've got Arizona home. They've got BYU at home, which is probably a loss. And then you got at TCU, which could be a loss as well. So let's say they go 2 and 2 or 3 and 1, but I'm guessing more like 2 and 2, and so that would get them to 6 and 2 for the season. A good season, but not good enough, but maybe good enough to get into the Big 12 championship game. ASU is at Iowa State. Then they've got West Virginia at CU and Arizona. They might lose at Arizona State, and so maybe 1 more loss for them. So ASU maybe with 2 losses, 6 and 2. Texas Tech are at Kansas State. They've got BYU at home. They've got UCF, and then they've got at West Virginia. Those are all, in my opinion, winnable games for Texas Tech. So at worst, they end up with 1 conference loss. So if you follow my logic there, the conference championship should be BYU versus Texas Tech. They'll have played 2 weeks prior, so they should know each other pretty well. and that should be an awesome conference championship game. So that is the wrap up for week 8. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe. Appreciate you guys very much. Have a great day. Bye.